I've been taking these pills for as long as I can remember. Every night, just before bed, a small white tablet has been my constant companion since childhood. It started with the nightmares. Horrible, vivid things that would tear me from sleep, drenched in sweat, my heart racing as if I'd just run for my life. The doctors said it was insomnia, brought on by anxiety, but it always felt like something more, something darker. At first, the pills were a blessing. They dulled the nightmares, pushed them back into the shadows where they belonged. Sleep came easier, smoother. But over time, I began to notice the side effects. My days blurred together, a haze of lethargy and detachment. I felt like a ghost in my own life, floating through conversations and routines, but never really there. I was alive, but not living. Lately, I've been thinking, maybe it's time to stop. Maybe I've outgrown the nightmares, and I don't need the pills anymore. I hate feeling so disconnected, like I'm watching my life from behind glass. I want to be present, to feel everything again, even if it means facing the sleepless nights. So I made the decision. No more pills. No more foggy mornings or muted emotions. Tonight, I'll go to bed without them for the first time in years. I tell myself it'll be fine, that I'm stronger now. I've conquered those childhood fears, haven't I? I just hope I'm right. The first night without the pills was strange. I won't lie, it was restless. My body felt uneasy, as if it had forgotten how to sleep without chemical help. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling for hours, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. But eventually I drifted off. It wasn't deep, but it was sleep. The second night wasn't much better. I could feel the exhaustion creeping in during the day. My body was screaming for rest, but when I lay down, my mind wouldn't shut off. It felt like there was a pressure building behind my eyes, but I told myself this was normal. My body was adjusting, that's all. I just needed to be patient. By the third night, I was starting to feel the strain. The dark circles under my eyes were growing, and my temper was shorter than usual. Still, I refused to go back to the pills. I could do this. I had to do this. But that's when things started getting weird. It was subtle at first, just a flicker in the corner of my vision as I lay in bed. A shadow, maybe, but nothing I could pinpoint. I'd look and it would be gone. I told myself it was my eyes playing tricks on me, tired as they were. Then came the sounds, soft, barely their noises that echoed in the stillness of the night. A creak in the hallway, a distant tap like something brushing against the window. I tried to ignore it, chalking it up to the usual sounds of the house settling, but it felt different. By the fourth night, the feeling was unmistakable. I wasn't alone. It was like a presence hovering just out of sight. I could feel it watching me, lurking in the dark corners of the room, waiting. Every time I closed my eyes, I sensed it creeping closer, like the air itself was heavy with someone, or something else. But I told myself it was all in my head. It had to be. My mind was just adjusting to the lack of medication. That's what withdrawal does, right? Plays tricks on you, makes you see things, hear things. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. It didn't take long for the nightmares to return. The ones I thought I'd left behind in childhood came crashing back, more vivid and terrifying than I remembered. Every time I closed my eyes, I was dragged into them. Horrible, twisted visions that felt far too real to be just dreams. The first one came without warning. I was back in the old house where I grew up, the one I haven't seen in years. The air was thick, the rooms felt wrong, like they were too small, too cramped. And then I saw it, a shadow, barely visible at first, lurking at the edge of my vision. It didn't move, it just watched me from the far corner of the room. In every dream after that, the figure was there. A tall, dark silhouette, faceless but unmistakably menacing. It didn't speak, didn't make a sound, but I could feel its presence like a weight pressing down on me. Every time it got a little closer, stepping out of the shadows, inch by inch like it was biding its time. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, gasping for air, my heart pounding as if I'd barely escaped something unspeakable. But the worst part wasn't the dreams themselves. It was the fact that I started seeing that figure even when I was awake. It began slowly, just flashes. its shape reflected in the glass of a window, a brief glimpse in the corner of a mirror, gone before I could fully comprehend what I'd seen. At first, I tried to convince myself it was my imagination, that I was still half dreaming. But the more it happened, the harder it became to ignore. The line between dream and reality started to blur. Sometimes I'd be sitting in the quiet of my living room, and I'd feel it, the same creeping dread from my dreams. The air would go cold, and I'd get the sensation that something was standing just behind me, watching, waiting. I'd whip around, heart in my throat, but there was never anything there, or at least nothing I could see. But I could feel it. I could always feel it. It wasn't just in my head anymore. That thing, whatever it was following me, and I had no idea how to stop it. Started like any other night. I was exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open after days of restless sleep. But as soon as I drifted off, I woke with a jolt, except this time I couldn't move. I've read about sleep paralysis before. I knew what it was supposed to feel like. Your mind wakes up, but your body doesn't. You can't move, you can't speak, but you're still aware of everything around you. So I lay there, trapped in my own body, telling myself it would pass, that this was just another side effect of the insomnia. But then I felt it. The bed dipped slightly, like someone or something had just sat down at the edge. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath stuck in my throat. I couldn't see anyone, but I knew I wasn't alone. My skin prickled with the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I strained to turn my head, to see what was there, but my body refused to cooperate. All I could do was stare at the ceiling, wide-eyed, paralyzed, as a cold breath whispered across the back of my neck. It wasn't my imagination. I could feel it. The icy chill, the faint hiss of breath, too close to be anything but real. Then came the whispers. They were faint at first, almost like a soft breeze stirring the curtains. But the longer I lay there, the clearer they became, low, rasping voices that seemed to come from all around me. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but the tone, it was menacing, threatening, like they were taunting me, waiting for something. I kept telling myself it was just sleep paralysis, that it would end soon. But this was different, felt too real, too physical. The weight at the edge of the bed pressed harder, like someone was leaning closer, watching my every breath, my every twitch. I could sense it hovering just out of view, waiting for me to acknowledge it. And then, as quickly as it began, it stopped. My body jolted awake, and I shot up in bed, gasping for air, drenched in sweat. But the room was empty. Nothing was there, except the lingering cold where the presence had been. This wasn't a one-time occurrence. Night after night, it came back. Sometimes I'd feel the bed shift. Other times it was the whispers, faint but persistent. The cold breath against my skin, the sensation of something watching me from the dark. It all became a regular, horrifying part of my nights. I'd lie there, helpless, unable to move, caught between sleep and wakefulness, waiting for it to happen again. I started to wonder if my mind was playing tricks on me, if this was some kind of twisted withdrawal from the pills. But deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't just sleep paralysis. This was something darker, something that wanted me to know it was real. And I was terrified that soon, it wouldn't just be sitting at the edge of the bed. I don't know how long it's been since I've had a full night's sleep. Days blur into nights, and every hour feels like an eternity. The shadows under my eyes are dark, almost bruised, and my hands shake constantly now. The fear is always there, gnawing at me, even in broad daylight. It's not just at night anymore. The figure, it's everywhere. At first, it was only in my dreams. Then it crept into the moments between sleep and wakefulness, haunting me in the darkness of my bedroom. But now I see it during the day, in mirrors, in windows, in reflections. Every time I glance at something shiny, there it is, standing just behind me, never moving, never speaking, just watching. I've started avoiding mirrors altogether. I can't stand looking into them, knowing I'll see that shadowy figure hovering behind me, its outline dark and formless, like it's made of the very essence of fear itself. The worst part is that no one else sees it. It's always there, just for me, lurking in the corners of my vision. I've considered going back to the medication, but I'm terrified it might be too late. What if the pills don't help? What if whatever this thing is has already latched onto me, like a parasite feeding on my fear? Part of me wonders if the pills were keeping it at bay all these years, and now that I've stopped, it's free to come closer to claim me. I'm not sure how much longer I can take this. I'm barely sleeping, and when I do, it's only for brief stretches before the nightmares pull me back under. The figure is always there, getting closer and closer with each dream. Last night, I felt it breathing down my neck, its presence heavy and suffocating, like it was finally ready to reveal itself. I don't know if this is madness or something far worse. The lines between reality and nightmare are so blurred that I can't tell the difference anymore. I see the figure even when I'm awake now, just out of the corner of my eye, a black mass of terror that won't leave me alone. I know it's coming for me. I can feel it. Maybe I'm already too far gone. Maybe I never should have stopped taking the pills. But now it's too late. I know that even if I tried to go back, the figure would still be there. It's too close now, too real. And it's not just in my head anymore. It's here.